Hi there. Welcome to Happy Hour with Ruth and Roxy.
I'm Ruth, in case you didn't know.
And I'm Roxy. And this is Scruffy.
And this is Scruffy, who appears to have decided he's a part of the podcast crew.
Because he is.
Yep.
And they all are, and we'll undoubtedly be hearing from them.
Oh, you'll hear from them. They're kind of barky today.
There's stuff going on.
Yeah.
So we've moved our mic. We've adjusted our stuff a little bit, so maybe the sound will be better this time. We'll see.
Pretty pink penis that we work with?
No. No, you have to stop saying that. Somehow you have to stop that.
It's very pretty, though. So, what are we drinking today?
Today we are drinking lime lagers, right?
Yeah, lime and lager. And so what kind of beer was it?
This is Granville Island Lager. Yeah,
and it's very good.
It's
with
delicious.
a splash of lime cordial. It's a nice, light, easy drink.
Very fresh. Yeah.
Very fresh.
And it's not hot today, but it's warmer than it has been for the last day or two. So
yeah,
it's very nice.
It is. And also, I was watching the presidential debate last night and may have accidentally drank a whole bottle of wine by myself, so I was not interested in wine today. So, because that's how it goes sometimes.
It was a bit of a rough evening.
It was difficult, and just in general, I think, because by the time this airs, it's going to be over. But really, you know what? Biden had a bad night. We all have bad nights. I've coached people that are really great speakers and used to presentations, and sometimes they get up there and they're younger than Biden, right? And don't have the kind of pressures he's got on him, and they get up there and they tank. And that's just natural when you come to present. It doesn't. Sometimes it's like an elite athlete, like a sports figure. Mm-hmm. Sometimes like golfers looks like he's going to win this big championship, and then
they biff a putt that they can normally
and
make
that
with their eyes closed.
But that's just it.
Yeah.
Like that just happens, and and I think I'll probably write a blog post on it because I want it out earlier. But you know what? Everybody's like, oh, we got to replace Biden. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? This man has brought that country out of what could have been a terrible recession, and he brought them out of COVID, and he's done so much for human rights. And it's like, all you people just need to take a freaking Valium and stand behind your candidate. Democrats tend to wet the bed about everything, whereas Republicans are, rallying around somebody who is twice impeached, found guilty in a civil court, right, of sexual assault, and 34 federal crime convictions, and they've rallied around him. Poor Biden has a cold and he has a rough night, and they're all like, gotta replace him, man.
Makes no sense.
It doesn't, but it is a good life lesson to remember. You know what? Everybody can have a bad moment or few moments or that kind of thing. And I think that's a pretty general life lesson, that one action doesn't define who somebody is, right?
So we're going to lighten things up right now.
Yes, we are. I wasn't supposed to go on that rant, but I just did.
The topic for the day is death.
Death. But before we go to death, we have to talk about the egg vending machines. We have some, what the heck are they called? Cliffhangers.
Cliffhangers, yes. So we haven't gone to the egg vending machine yet, which is the problem. However, I have located it, which is, the first step that has to happen. So
and maybe before we air this,
we'll go. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Note to self. Maybe some editing here in our little podcast. Yep.
So the other thing is, we want to talk about maybe some of you having little
viewing parties,
and there's rewards in it for you if you do.
And what are the rewards, Ruth?
Well, we thought if you have a viewing party where you get 3 or more people other than you and you can do it via Zoom, right? You could do it that way, or you could have them at your place. But if you do that, you send us a picture of all of you in wherever you are, even if it's a screenshot. We will send you one of our really nice little happy hour wine tumblers.
Isn't that
can you guys see it?
Pretty?
So yes,
insulated for
keeps everything cold.
Chilled drink
for your beverage of choice. Mm-hmm. So if you want to have a viewing party and then send us an image of it, we will ship one of these to you.
We will.
So yes.
So there we go.
That's
our teasers.
Can
we now talk about death? Let's talk about death.
I'd like to talk about death.
So I happened to be at the lawyer's office in the last couple of weeks to get some paper signed, and I picked up a number of brochures while I was in there. Being an executor, a death in your family, power of attorney, preparing your will. So this has been on my mind, and to be honest, it's been on my husband and I have a will. That's like, we're somewhat prepared. But when our neighbor passed away quite suddenly in February, I think that was, it was a little bit of a wake-up call for us, because I mean, anytime someone near you dies, it's a wake-up call for sure. But as it turns out, this gentleman didn't have a will. So his widow was somewhat... she had a lot of stuff to deal with before she could. She wants to move.
Yeah, it's too big a house for you know.
And they're both elderly.
Yeah.
But even though the house was in both their names, the fact that he didn't have a will meant that it had to go to probate.
Yeah.
She had a lot of stuff to do in order to get it into her own name before she could sell it.
Yeah.
So
it was a thing.
It's a lot of stuff, and it made me think. Oh, okay, we've sold our business already. That's fine. We've our life has gotten, it's a lot simpler than it used to be. Ow.
Right.
You're on my foot. Ow.
Chillupa's
Bony
laying
elbow.
on her foot.
But it's something that we need to check in. And me, now that I've got more books out than I did before, my intellectual property, I think, has to be broken out in a will. So that's an asset that could continue after I'm gone. So I need to do that. So anyway, so it's been on my mind.
It has been. Plus, I have a book, I'm Dead, Now What? And it lets you have all the things, important
That is
information
a great
about that.
book.
And I'm pretty sure I got it on Amazon, but if I'll find it and put a link. But it's got
I
all this
noticed that
stuff.
nothing in there is filled out.
I know, it's a problem. But the other side of that, first of all, it's really important to have all your things set up, right? Because otherwise it creates grief for the people that
Grief, huh?
right?
It complicates grief,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But that's just it. You want to make it that they don't have to struggle or do things. But the other thing is, you get to a certain age, and you think about death, right? And you have to. I mean, you start to lose people. I mean, I've lost both my parents, and you start to think about those things. And my sister, who is she practices Buddhism, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's not what she was born into, but that's her thing. And she says that, you know, one of the sort of guidings there is that you think about death a little bit every day. So when it actually happens, you've become a little bit familiar with it, because
It's almost like an inoculation.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
Like you and I know there's no way to ever be fully prepared for it, but I mean, I've been doing that for years, although I would have called it probably a mental illness,
Like-
the way I do. They're all gonna die one day and leave me alone. I'll never get over it. I'd have bad dreams, you know, that somebody died. And,
But that's a
so-
stage of childhood too, right? That when you start to realize that
Absolutely.
right?
It's a big deal for kids once they realize that people aren't permanent.
Yeah.
And that, okay, so my little, gonna get on my soapbox here just a little bit, but from my experience in the veterinary world, this is a huge benefit for children of having pets, because pets almost always outlive us, right? They will outlive the child that they were.
Outlive, die first.
I mean, die first. We will outlive them. The other way.
It's like, what kind of dogs
pets are
does
these?
she have?
Oh, parrots. Parrots will
Oh
outlive
yeah,
you.
parrots.
Don't get a parrot.
Or tortoises.
Or a tortoise. But because we outlive our pets, the children will experience loss.
Yeah.
And the experience of loss, and I mean, we saw that with our kids. Oh my gosh, everything from hamsters to cats to the dogs, and we grieved everything. And we cremated them, and we
Yep.
buried their ashes, and then when we moved, I scooped some of the dirt and I took it along so that we could bury them here and have them
Close
have that
by.
memory close by. And those things help kids realize that they will survive the loss.
Yep.
It's hard. We grieve. We celebrate the life that was. We celebrate the bond that we had,
Yep.
and we remember them.
Hang on, we're gonna have to
with
yell
joy.
at our dog.
He's fine. He's
Hey,
he's not hurting that.
good boy. But it is an important thing, and I think having a pet is exactly and for us too, right?
Yeah.
So you might have to go stop him, because
Hey, Chalupa.
there.
Just sit down.
He listens to her more than me, that's
he
for
can't
sure.
even hear me. He
But-
can't hear either one of
No,
us.
he's actually a perfect thing. So
Yeah.
Chalupa and I are pretty bonded. And,
Pretty
and-
bonded? Wow. Okay, this dog does not leave the house without her.
Yeah.
And when she leaves the house, the whole
He's
neighborhood
not
knows
happy.
about it.
Yeah. And when I come home, they really know
Oh,
about
wow.
it.
Yeah.
But I think, and he and I have little talks, right? Because at night, and we've done this since since we got him, is he and I would always, like, at night, we send our little prayers out to the universe, and we sort of say the people we know in our lives that are having trouble, but we're always sending out, big loving energy and hope for all the little animals out there who are being challenged and stuff. But lately, while we're laying there, I've been saying to him, and it's okay when you go. Right? Because and that's for me, because first of all, I don't think he can hear me anymore. And also, they live in nature. Dogs know. Like, the cycle of life is more straightforward when you're an animal.
And they live in the moment.
Yeah.
So they're aware when things start to hurt and when they can't remember things, or like they know that they're not what they used to be, but they don't see it that way.
No,
they don't
have
think
a
that way.
comparison
Yeah,
thing,
they don't have that ability to think forward or think backward.
But that's kind of how I'm preparing myself is to, like, think about it and think about to appreciate every moment now.
Yeah.
And do that kind of thing. But I think we all have to sort of face it. But the other thing is, if we can face it now, I think something for some, like for me, it's not, and I don't want to die, but I've never been that afraid of death, right? Like, because I actually have a really strong belief that there's more. When I don't know what the more is, right? Like, I can't tell you, but I've always thought, because I've always felt a connection to the spirit world, right? And so for me, I've never been terrified of it. Now, having said that, I've never also faced it.
Right.
So I don't know what I'll be like then.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is it's a reality we face. So we have to
Nobody
find a way,
gets out of life alive.
Yeah, like, we have to find a way to come to terms with it.
Yeah.
And I was there, my sister and I were there when we helped my dad transition over. I mean, by the time we got to him, he was semi-conscious, so he knew we were there, but we didn't have conversations or anything, and we helped him. And we were really fortunate because we have a cousin that was, I think she was a critical care nurse, and what she said was, so when he passed us, because we knew we were going, right, he was
say goodbye.
going, right? Yeah. And she said, but when he does, don't rush out and get the nurses or do anything. Sit there with him. Open a window.
Such good
advice. Open the
advice.
curtains. If you have curtains, open the curtains. Sit there and have a moment. Give their soul a moment to adjust, because they've just gone through, right? If you believe in this kind of thing, but honestly, even if you're not sure, do it anyway, just in case. Right? Open. It doesn't hurt anybody, but it also gives the family a moment. To breathe and to realize that this person has now passed on, and all of that. And that was really good advice, because I'm really good in a crisis, because I'm a fixer.
Yeah.
Right? I'm a doer. So I would have been like, I'll get the nurse, we'll do this, here you go. And it was like, we all just sat there for a minute and had our moments and let whatever his spirit needed to do. And I think if we all become more comfortable, like, there's death doulas now.
Death doulas. I know. And I love that. I love that idea. I'm familiar with what birth doulas do, and it's an amazing. I didn't really have I knew what they were. Midwives and doulas work together to support the laboring mother to give birth. Midwives deal with the actual birth. Doulas are there to support them and support the family with, more comfort things. Right. And so the idea of a death doula is really quite brilliant, I think. Yeah. Over to you. I lost my thought.
But it is really, like, so when you think about that, so it's a little bit more of the emotional, spiritual support, I think, not and they understand the physicality of death and that kind of thing. But I think it's there for someone, and for someone who dances with death all the time, a death doula would have a different, because she or he, I mean, would have seen things, right, and experienced things and felt things, and they can give you a bigger perspective, because most of us go into death, if we're lucky, we only have a few deaths in our lives that we have to deal with, right? And so it's not something familiar.
It's not familiar, and when the death is expected, like it was for your father. It's very different from our neighbor who passed unexpectedly, or like one of our dogs passed away in her sleep. My husband's a veterinarian. He tells people all the time, dogs never die in their sleep. They don't die of old age. Well, we've had it happen twice. So in fact,
it does happen.
It does happen. So, and he but our first reaction, because I heard her take a breath. We were in bed, we were sleeping, and I heard her take a breath and maybe give a little sound like maybe she was having a bad dream or something. And I thought, oh, that's weird. Maybe I'll just get up and check her. And I got up and I looked in the crate and I'm like, she's not really moving. I think she's not really moving. And we panicked and we got her out and rated CPR on her and she was gone.
Yeah.
Like she was just gone. And I wish now that we hadn't done that.
Right.
Because it was peaceful. It was the best death.
Yeah.
She was in she died. She literally died in her sleep.
Yeah.
With the tiniest little sigh.
Yeah.
You know, but when you're not expecting it.
Well, and you were doing what you had both been trained to do.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
but that's like, honestly, isn't that the thing that you would wouldn't that just be the easiest way out, is to go and have a really good sleep and you never come back to this life in it? Because again, I have different beliefs, but like you wouldn't that just be the easiest, right? But it's one of those where I think, you know, there's the whole, and farmers are really good about death. Sometimes some of them are a little too good, if you ask me, but you know, they see the seasons, right? They understand the cycle. You know, really ethical farmers who take really good care of their animals until they have, like Ray says, have one bad day. We all have one bad day, man.
The Temple Grandin concept.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
You don't have to go vegetarian, but eat meat that was raised humanely and
had
slaughtered
a good life.
slaughtered humanely.
But that's just it, because we all, at some point, we all have that one bad day, right? That final one bad day.
That's right.
But doing it that way, but so farmers see it a little bit more practically, and for humane farmers, that's really makes sense. What I don't like are the farmers who don't give a crap, right, about the animals. That's not at all what we're talking about. But I think that's exactly it. And the thing is, you know, medical assistance in death, MAID. Right. MAID is a really great thing, and I hope it spreads farther, because I also think, if you're at a point and you know it's not going to get better and there's just pain in your future, all that does is create pain and emotional trauma for you. It does that for your family. And if you're ready to go, now I don't actually know this. I am making a guess, because, you know, we all know how much I love Jimmy Buffett, right? So Jimmy Buffett, his first big song was called Come Monday, and there's a line in it, it's like, heading out to San Francisco for the Labor Day weekend show. So he left this world on September 1st, which is the start of the Labor Day weekend last year.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So either it's the biggest coincidence in the world, or he knew, because he had a you know, a terminal form of cancer, right? But it's one of those where it's like, I guess I get comfort from that, because I think he lived life on his terms. I think he would have wanted to go on his terms, right? And I think medically assisted death is another thing for people to consider, is that you get to have the power of your choice then.
And again, from the veterinary side, we've seen so much death, and for me, euthanasia is a gift.
Yeah.
It's such a gift that we can give our beloved animals who are suffering. We can say, you know what? You've lived a good life. I can see that you're not happy anymore. I can see that you don't want to, you're not taking joy in food. You're not enjoying being outside. You're painful every time you move. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you out of this. And I don't know, again, I haven't faced it, and my parents and my husband's parents are all still alive. So we haven't faced that just yet. So I might feel differently once.
Yep. And I think we all deal with it differently. But I also think, like, my mom died when she was 53. That was too young, right? That was way too young. And I railed against death after that.
Yeah.
I was mad at my God, my version of God. I was mad at the universe. It was like, what the heck, man? But when my dad went, my dad was 90. He had lived a good life. He had love with my mom, and he had us, and then he had love with somebody else, and he had, you know, a good second half of his life. And I mean, I certainly didn't want him to die, but I also could accept that that's a natural part, right? Like, and I think that's just it. Doesn't mean you don't want them to live, but it's like anything. It's like when you take an animal in knowing, right? It's like sometimes the most generous, kindest, most humane thing you can do is to let them go.
You can rail against the leaves turning color.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Well,
they're still
gonna
going
turn
to
color.
fall. It's still the change of season is still going to come. So to me, this feels very similar, except that it's less predictable.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
well, but the other side of that is, I think there's the flip side, because this is actually happy hour and not death hour. But the other side to that is, I think whoever we lose, whether it's a pet or a person, or you talk to somebody who has lost a person that you didn't know, it kind of gives you a little nudge, like live.
yes, yes. Well, and that's a great segue into the next part of our podcast, where I was listening to some really, really good, a really good podcast by Mel Robbins.
I love Mel Robbins. Holy man, you should see her notes.
Why?
They're really good and long.
They're not legible. Well, I can
read them.
Oh, you can read them? Okay. Yeah. The longer that I work on a keyboard, the less I can read my handwriting.
Oops, yes.
My handwriting is just gone. It's gone to a bad place.
But Mel Robbins is great, and we'll link to her.
Yeah, she had a podcast recently. I don't remember the name of it, but I'll link to it. And it was all about brain health. And it was, I think, part of a series about aging well, and that's something that we talk about a lot, right? And that is. It goes right along with the acceptance of death, right? Death is, I think there is less, when you know someone has lived a really good life, you can accept it better. If somebody has not, if they've been frustrated, if they haven't been allowed to do what they want, or for whatever reason,
or they haven't
become fully themselves, or
they haven't found their own thing.
Yeah, they haven't realized their potential. It's different. It feels like a bigger loss, or a loss of potential that maybe could have been realized. But I think our goal when we stop to think about it is live the best life we can, so that when the time comes, we can say, I missed nothing, and exactly. I mean, you can't have everything and you can't do everything. You just can't. However, you can still do the things, you can do enough things that you can say, you know what, this was good. This was good. So her podcast is talking specifically about brain health. Right. This one, and cognitive decline is a real thing. So I was very interested in listening to this. So you're gonna love this. And she talked with a number of doctors and other people, neurologists and people that know what they're talking about. You know what the first thing they recommended is for protecting your cognitive health?
Oh, I'm afraid.
Give up or cut back dramatically on alcohol consumption. And I'm like, next. Yeah. What else? What else can I do?
Okay, Chalupa wants up here. I'm going to have to do some.
Okay, magic. This is going to be dramatic. I'm going to hold the mic.
Very dramatic. You can all see my hands.
I know I do have us organized a little differently today.
Okay, you want to come up?
So
you want to come up with me?
So I understand what they're saying, because it's a known thing. Alcohol has.
You can't come up here, Scruffy. No, you can go there. Here.
But looking at it from another perspective, because I learned to enjoy alcohol somewhat later than most people, because I
a lot later than me, I gotta say.
I grew up completely without it.
You want to come up too?
And I have an appreciation.
Okay, I'm a little busy. Just
wow. Saying. All right. Yeah, I'll handle things. Don't worry about it.
No fighting you.
But I have an appreciation for some of the other benefits that come with alcohol that I never knew about. Right? To me, when I was growing up, alcohol was always a bad thing. It led to alcoholism, of course, family breakdown, unemployment, and you ended up on the streets.
It was
all the worst case scenarios. But social drinking was never. I didn't know what that was.
Wait, I have a question. What did you think when you would drive past little pubs and there were people in there? What did you think the people were doing?
Well, sinning, obviously. Obviously,
okay, can we not do this on national television?
Going to hell, and
this is not working.
Probably, celebrating their horrible marriages, and the loss of their job,
and our devil worshiping ways.
All those things. So, So it was never.
Okay,
yeah.
just had to check that.
It was a scary thing. Those are the scary people. Quick, drive faster, drive faster. Yeah.
Look,
so
look.
So
they're in the
after I listened to Mel Robbins like this, actually I was in my car, so I wasn't like that, but I was like mentally crossing my arms and thinking, I'm not giving up alcohol. So next, go on to the next thing that we can do. But I looked up. Okay, so I realized there's recommendations for alcohol use consumption. Not going to go into that now because I don't want to think about it, but there are benefits, and the benefits to alcohol are, and this is according to the Mayo Clinic, moderate consumption. It's always moderate consumption. And we know that red wine has resveratrol in it. It's got some good stuff in it. But any alcohol raises your good cholesterol, your HDLs, and it prevents arterial damage from your bad cholesterol, your LDLs. So moderate consumption of alcohol is good for your heart. So we're not talking about your brain. So it might cause certain issues in your brain, and it does. Sometimes when I'm editing the podcast,
in my brain.
I'm like, did we say that? Ooh, that's cool. I don't remember talking about that.
Okay, but is that alcohol or age? Because there's a whole discussion there, man.
That's the thing, right? Like, do they go together? And then I think, you know what? Some of the things I've forgotten, I'm glad I've forgotten. I don't want to remember all of the things that I've spent a lot of time noodling about. Noodling is the friendly word. Musing and glowering and obsessing about. I'd like to let go of some of those things. Yep. And so moving on to my next recommendation, there's a newsletter.
Wait, I just want to go back and clarify something. Yesterday, me drinking a bit too much wine was a response to a stressful situation, and honestly, I have to admit, I didn't quite realize, but I was watching the debate with friends in New Hampshire, and I was kind of having fun talking to them about it, and I didn't quite realize.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, kind of like that I had
suddenly the bottle's empty and you don't know what happened.
Yeah, but the other thing is, I mean, not that, we don't have tipsy times, but, like, we don't... I want to say we don't drink that much, but I don't want you to laugh. But like, we never drink and drive. We're responsible. Like, we're really responsible.
Yeah, I would say so too.
But I just want to make that, children don't do this at home kind of thing.
Oh, totally. And there's also a time factor involved, right? There's a time factor and things like food, right? And water. Drink your water. I've been drinking my water. You drink your water.
You've had 2 sips. Anyway,
I'm still drinking.
But there is
So there are other factors involved. This sounds like justification, and yes, it is. However, some of it is true.
And it's fun.
It's a happy hour. Come on. Yeah. That's what you're here for.
But it also, I think the social situation of happy hour is healthy.
It is healthy.
I think there's a bunch of other things, and not if you're sitting in a bar, drinking shot after shot with beer chasers, and you're doing that to hide away from life. But
that's a whole different scenario.
That is a whole other thing, right? Like, we're just talking about social drinking that's kind of fun. But I think there's health benefits to all of that, again, within reason.
Within reason, yeah, exactly, moderate. So I follow a newsletter by a guy named Eric Barker. His newsletter is called Barking Up the Wrong Tree. And it's all about... It's nope, can't encapsulate it right now. I've lost it because of the beer. Let's blame the beer. But it's really interesting, and he talks about various psychological things, various social things. So his latest one that I just opened a couple days ago was talking about again, ways to age well, right? So I'm like, oh, that's perfect. This is exactly what we're talking about.
They're
this
protectors,
week. And so he's got a number of things. I'm just going to pull it up on my phone here.
But so while she does that, Mel Robbins has a thing. I think it's called the 5-second rule. I read her first book, and it's a 5-second rule. And what that is when, like, if you're just don't want to get out of bed but you have a bunch of things to get done, it's like once you make that conscious thought of I should get up, then you and I do this all the time because it became a habit for me. Now it's like, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you do the thing. You have a phone call you don't want to make, you do that. She's really great about very pragmatic tools that you can use. So I would be interested in a little bit more about like digging into what she's saying about brain health, because she's I have a lot of admiration for her.
There's a book that I read years ago called Eat That Frog.
Oh yeah.
Do you know that one?
Yep.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing. It's talking about how to tackle issues that you, or not issues, but tasks that you don't want to do, how to stop procrastinating, basically. And it was a similar sort of thing. And the title comes from, if the worst thing that you have to do all day is eat a frog, just do it and get it over with.
Yep.
Get it over with. Get your hardest job over with
Yep.
in the day. And for me, that's often exercise, although I do tend to leave that till later in the day. But, do the thing that you're most likely not to do. If you can leave it out, just get it over with, and then everything else is easy in your life. So,
and honestly, like even that stuff to me is brain health, because the more you sit and stew about it, you build up stress hormones in your body. There's a whole bunch of physical things that come with that kind of that thing. Anyway, go ahead.
So Eric Barker's newsletter is talking about the surprising science behind why everything you know about relationships is mostly wrong is his book. Plays well with others, but he's talking about how to have a long and awesome life, 4 secrets from research. And the first one is just stay healthy. So if you want to not die, just stay healthy. Well, that seems pretty basic. Oh, on that note, I was going to tell you something funny. So I was out.
Wait, I have to tell you, I'm a little distracted because she has diamonds in her hair.
Oh, this one. I got this crazy little piece that
it's really cute.
Wants to go into my eye.
But it's very cute what you've done.
It's trying to fall out constantly.
Well, it looks very nice, just so everybody knows.
There, can you see it? My little sparkly? It's going to be probably gone by the time we're done this podcast. So we were at the pool with our grandson and our daughter the other day, and our daughter's a NICU nurse, or not NICU, public health nurse now. And I said, "Hey, look at this little patch on my leg. What do you think that is?" And me, former veterinary nurse, I figured it's probably ringworm. Don't get grossed out by that, because anyone who's ever dealt with a lot of animals, done any kind of shelter work, grew up on a farm, you've had ringworm, and it's not a worm, it's a fungal, skin fungal thing. So anyway, I assumed I've got ringworm again, and I was treating it, but it's not going away.
that I had cancer and was going to die.
So my husband looked at it, and he said, "Oh, I think that might be a staph infection. It's not. It's just a very small, raised, slightly raised, really hard to see, very mild little thing." He's like, "Oh, it's probably a staph infection. You should treat it with this instead." So I started doing that. So when we were at the pool, I showed it to Andrea, and I said, "What do you think it is?" And she's like, "Mom, you should get that checked out. It could be squamous cell carcinoma." And I'm like, "So veterinary nurse says this, veterinarian says that, nurse says get thee to a doctor."
Yes.
And I'm like, "I think I'll make an appointment."
Yes.
I still think it's probably nothing.
Yes.
But I will go to the doctor and get that checked out, because the first step to aging well is stay healthy. So
yes,
yeah, I'll go
and
look
that's
at that.
like that seems like such a simple statement to make, but if you remind yourself, like if you're walking in, and I have an interest in potato chips, but I've
in potato chips.
But I've made the truffle potato chips, man.
Yeah, this is our little
pre-podcast snack.
There's no trans fats in them, and there's no gluten. They're gluten free and sugar free. Therefore, they're healthy.
I'm not going to argue, but so I made a rule in my house that during the day, if I go down, because we have offices at home, I can only go down, and during business hours, I'm only allowed to have fruits or vegetables, right, as my snack, because otherwise I'd get potato chips or I'd get cracker, because I like crunchy things and I like savory things. But it's really interesting that when you think about, oh, I want to be healthy, it makes you make these little switches. Right?
It totally does. I always buy the Tamari almonds from Costco, and I was in a really good rhythm with that for a long time, years, and then I kind of got out of it. So I'm back on that now, and I love them. It's that salty, crunchy thing for me too. But they're almonds, and
they're good for you.
And we have high cholesterol in my family. I think you do too.
Yeah.
And we have, both of us, we have so much in common.
Except we shouldn't.
We shouldn't. There's no reason.
No.
My cholesterol is in the your blood is gravy range, mostly, but it's also the good cholesterol is in there. So my doctor keeps looking at my numbers, and
The
she's like,
ratios are okay.
the ratio is fine. Like, your
Yep.
good cholesterols are good, and your total cholesterol is like, wow.
But the ratio, right?
But the good stuff is good.
Which is, I think, and maybe it's justifying, but it also goes back to we're learning more about it, right?
Yeah.
Because before, when I was younger, because it's like genetically high cholesterol,
Yeah,
right? My
yeah.
niece has it.
Yeah.
My mom was gone early on, so I never got
Yeah.
to ask her, right? But it's one of those where it's like it's just one of those things where it's like it is what it is, and you have to figure it out, right?
My mom and my brother and my sister are all on statins or cholesterol lowering medications
So maybe
of
it's
some kind.
the
And
drinking that's helping your cholesterol.
Oh, my brother and sister indulge as well. But I do think that, like, when I realized that my cholesterol is definitely out of range, I looked into it a bit more, and the portfolio diet for anybody.
Oh, right. This is a
Check
good
that
one.
out. I'm going to write that down. It was actually a naturopath who put me onto that. And the basics of the portfolio diet are almonds every day, nuts in general, but almonds are the ones that they've studied that they know
Right.
lower cholesterol. As much soy as you can handle. So I drink soy milk every morning with it's a cup of soy milk with a little bit of coffee
Yeah, I
in
was
it.
going to say she drinks her soy milk with coffee, not her coffee with soy milk.
No, it's the other way around. And if you like tofu or that sort of thing, it's
Yep,
a good way
or-
to get
or
soy
edamame.
products. Yeah, edamame, exactly. There's lots of ways.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to
And then
get it.
fruits and vegetables, which I am less good about, unfortunately. And your omegas, right? Omega supplements. So I do those things, and my numbers have come down a little bit.
Yeah.
But they're still
Exercise
up there.
too.
Exercise, yeah, is a good thing. So Eric Barker is talking about, so for staying healthy, absolutely, do those things, but socialize.
Yep.
A big one. So for me, the alcohol goes along with socializing, because we both have, social anxiety disorder, or, issues around that. It's a little bit challenging for me. I think it's fair to say I spent a lot of my adult life lonely,
Yep.
not really having a circle that I could connect with very easily, and not feeling that it was easy to do it. It took
Right.
a lot of work and stress to socialize,
Like-
more so than the benefit that I would get from
Right,
it.
and so it's but if you're an introvert and you maybe have social anxiety or some other kind of anxiety, which
A
doesn't-
lot of introverts do.
but
Not
that's just
all,
it. But it doesn't necessarily, like, those two don't always go together. Quite often they do, but they don't always. But the thing is, then it's more stress to go out and do the things than the
Yeah.
benefit you would get of
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it. But socializing is a really big thing, because honestly, I think there were times in my life, if I had my way, I would have been up in a mountain, and poor Paul would have been like dying for some kind of social connection, and I would have been like, I got books, I have the internet, I got dogs, I'm good, right?
And yet you actually weren't.
No, but that's exactly
Yeah.
right. Like the thing is, I would hide away from things that only puts you in deeper into the pit.
Yes.
Right.
And it makes it because everything we do creates a habit, right?
Yeah.
So we've been in this community for 4.5 years, going on 5 years. And I was very deliberate when we moved here. I was like, this is a place where we could actually have friends. That whole, I'm going to borrow a cup of sugar from my neighbor. I never lived anywhere in a place my whole life where I felt like that was a possibility. Like, that's just
Yeah.
not, people don't know their neighbors in most apartment buildings,
Right. No,
condos,
that's true.
streets.
Lots of people don't.
You typically don't. And we worked at making connections in the neighborhoods that we lived in, but it wasn't until we moved here that I was really deliberate about it.
Yeah.
And even before you guys got here, I was like, we're going to go to the social thing on Saturday.
Yeah.
We're going to go to this thing that's happening at the barn. We're going to make an effort.
Yep.
And my husband's far more social than I am. And he's always had a much bigger circle of friends, but also connected daily through work, whereas I work from home. I mean, we homeschooled our kids. I had a circle of, mother friends and stuff that most
Well, what
of-
you have in common is the kids. Then,
that's
right?
it. So as the kids grew, those relationships
Yeah.
kind of faded away.
Yep.
mostly naturally. I have lots of virtual friends, online friends, writers that live all across the world, but they're not daily friends,
Yep.
you know? So it was kind of a revelation to me, you know, moving here and discovering, oh, you know what? I actually am not as much of a social pariah as I always assumed I was.
But the other thing is,
because that's how you think.
and we tell ourselves
how I
these
think.
stories, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I'm grateful that I get to say out loud I'm an introvert, because it makes me feel like it kind of explains some of my, you know, oh, Luna's gonna howl, but it lets me explain some of my sort of weirdo social behavior, right? When I get to say it out loud. But the other thing is, if you keep telling yourself you're socially anxious and you're an introvert,
Yes.
then it kind of reinforces this behavior that really, you know, because honestly, most introverts, if they get around somewhere where they feel comfortable and safe and people see them, they put themselves out there, right?
Yep.
Like it's one of those, and I think that's and it kind of goes back to the blog post I wrote about putting these intentions out there. I'm going to do it this way, but I'm going to do it in a way that makes me comfortable.
So much, I think of what we do habitually is learned behavior, right?
Yep.
So if you naturally tend to hang back from social
Yep.
things, which is my tendency, and you don't, so for me to be more forward is I have to be deliberate about it. I have to learn to do it, and then I have to be reinforced that it's okay
Right.
to do this,
Right.
and there's some positive feedback. So for much of my life, there was not that reinforcement.
Right.
You know, when I did put myself out there, I did not get the whatever it was I was
Right,
looking for. I
yeah.
didn't get that. So it wasn't really until I was like, no, I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna move here, find people that are more, and here there's a lot of people that I have maybe more in common with, I guess. I
Yep.
don't know.
Yep. So like-minded, right?
Like-minded, yeah. And
Not the same, which is
no,
different.
you
right?
don't need to be surrounded by people that are exactly like you all the time.
I mean, how boring would that be?
Pretty boring. Yeah, pretty boring. But the more, and we're always pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones, right? Like it's if you never do the thing that's hard, you only get worse at doing the thing that's hard,
Yep.
right? You'll never get
But
better
it goes
at
back
it.
to eating the frog,
Yeah.
right? You know what
yeah.
I mean? You have to put yourself, and sometimes it's like, you know, it's like, okay, so I think I'd rather be home with my book and my dogs, and you know, hearing Paul watch a movie, and that's okay too, right? But other times it's like, wow, this was really fun, and honestly, that's most of it, right?
Yep, that's most of it. So the socializing for me and goes along with the alcohol, because the alcohol takes away some of my fear.
Yep.
Right? It takes away some of the nervousness of being
Of
with a
social
group
anxiety,
of people that
right?
I don't necessarily know. Maybe I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm far more worried about saying the wrong thing than I am likely to say the wrong thing.
Well, that's how we all get in our own heads,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like that's like so many times you want to say to somebody, it's okay, you know what? Put that over there for a minute and just see, right?
Yeah.
And you say that to kids, right?
Yes.
Just give it a try.
Exactly. Yeah, hanging around the little ones is really good for me, because I'll see how everything they do is fantastic. They're the best at it. Look at them.
And they're so excited about it.
They're so excited
right?
about it. Like, we all need to channel
Yeah.
our inner
No.
5-year-old more. So Eric Barker says socializing, which I think is connected to the alcohol.
But also it sort of goes back to the purpose of the podcast that we've talked about, right?
Yes,
Like
yes.
to find, because we know not everybody, it's not easy to find it exactly where you are all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So this, you know, to be able to build community and
Find somebody. So this is our challenge to you guys. Goes along with the viewing party that we
Right.
talked about. Find somebody that you think might enjoy this kind of a conversation.
Yeah.
Tell them about our podcast, and then say, hey, do you want to watch it with me?
Yeah.
Come over to my house, or let's get together on
let's,
Zoom
go
if
on
you don't live
Zoom.
together, and or live nearby, and do it together.
Yeah.
Because this is what builds it for us,
Yep.
is bouncing this off each other and feeds that
And-
social need for
and-
us.
and-
We want it to work that way for you too.
And for you to expand your sort of
Mm-hmm.
connection while we're expanding this community together. So we've had a couple of people here that we knew and said hi to as neighbors, but we've become much more engaged with them since
Mm-hmm.
the podcast, because they'll stop and talk to us because things resonate.
Because
right?
we talk about stuff they didn't know. You can only learn so much through a social thing, and we talk. I mean, we go deep. Sometimes we stay on the surface. Sometimes we talk about ridiculous things, and sometimes we just natter and for the sake of it. But we're always exploring things, and people are getting to know us better.
Yeah, and
as a result,
and it is a great
and
thing.
Then that changes the real connections that we make with people.
And that's the real, like, that is really the purpose here is to bring people in to create this place where you feel like if you have somewhere to go. And I mean, certainly we put it out on Fridays at 4, but it could be on Sunday morning you're feeling like, I just want to feel connected. And that's what we want to do here, because I've had lots of times in my life where I felt connected to no one.
Yeah.
Right? And
that's not a good feeling.
And that is exactly.
So next he says exercise and sleep, which is not rocket science. We all know that. For aging well, exercise. I resist that, generally speaking.
I like it because we do the virtual reality thing, Supernatural, and I get to hit things.
You know
That's
what?
It's like therapy to me.
It is. It's therapy to me too. It occurred to me that we should post a clip of us doing that.
Okay, so she's one of those people that she exercises and looks like a supermodel.
Oh no!
I get all sweaty and I have like snot and it's like ugly, man. Like, so, but honestly, seriously, it's because she looks good when she exercises.
It's not pretty. It's not pretty. But I think that I might, yeah, I might do that anyway, because you guys got to see it.
She can do it first.
Like,
it is really fun though.
It's really fun, and it's hard to appreciate what
honestly,
it is.
until if you have somebody who has an Oculus headset, absolutely, because we can send you a free trial, right? Like, but honestly,
if you have
should
the
try
headset,
it. But we should
Supernatural
try to do it.
is the app, and the MetaQuest Oculus is the
really
device
fun.
that we use it on, and it's really fun.
We will.
So
we should videotape you, put the headset on, and do the whole thing. Right? We should do that.
We could do that.
And then we can show you what it looks like in the headset.
Yes. I'm sure there's videos of that somewhere.
Oh yeah, no, and you can do it yourself.
Can you?
Yes.
I don't know how to do that.
I don't really know either, but I see people do it, so I can figure it out.
Okay. So this is all part of the learning that we continually do to keep our brains agile.
Nope, that's very true.
And sleep then is the next thing that he says, and I'm like,
I don't
if
think
only.
sleep. I don't. Yeah, like
if only.
Sleep isn't something you can do.
Sleep isn't it. So he says, as far as sleep goes, go to bed at the same time every night. Wake up at the same time every day. Yes, weekends too. Okay, so consistent sleep schedule. I have no problem with that. My issues are more falling asleep, staying asleep, and then getting back to sleep after you've woken up. You know, just the basics. So if anybody's got
any sleep ideas,
we're
open.
For the most part, I know that if I, as long as I find that water consumption is really important for me.
Yep.
You tend to have restless legs too.
Yep.
I have restless legs. I tend to get really nasty Charlie horses if I'm dehydrated.
Right.
So I know throughout the day I have to have a lot of water, or I'm not going to sleep well.
Yep.
I don't generally eat a whole lot before bed because that definitely throws me off.
Yep.
I always read before bed.
Yeah.
And I'm never on I'm reading on my Kindle, which doesn't have the same light thing. You watch your iPad, which is not good.
But I don't really watch it.
You don't watch it.
I listen
okay.
to it, kind of, right?
Yeah.
But,
and I listen to an iPod.
It keeps the voices quiet.
Yeah. No, it's very soothing. I'm the same way. I re-listen after I'm done with my Kindle.
Yeah.
I plug in my iPod, and then I'm listening to books that I've read a million times because they're very soothing.
Yeah, but that's just it. But so if you have any tips about sleep, or tell us what you challenge, because I think part of that is as you hit certain ages, right? But I know people like Paul has had sleep issues, and he went to a sleep specialist and went to a workshop, and he's been doing better. But he's definitely, like, everybody I know has issues, and it's one of those where it's like you want to sleep but you can't, right?
Let's talk just for a few minutes about sleep apnea.
Right.
Okay, sleep apnea is a big deal. And my experience with sleep apnea is that my husband has had very bad sleep apnea. And how do I know? Because he snored really bad. Snoring is funny until it's not. And then when you have every night this, like, I got to get to sleep first because otherwise I'll never get to sleep. And then he wakes. So he would sort of, oh, you're just being a whiny princess about your sleep, because I am very very protective about my sleep. I am. And he's like, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And finally I started videotaping him, and I videotaped him not breathing for almost a minute. And when he saw that video, I saw the change in his face. I'm like, you don't understand what's happening here.
Right.
You need to see this. I think I'm going to wake up to a corpse every morning, because I think you're going to die in your sleep because you're not breathing. And so he watched it, and he's like, oh. And our nurse daughter looked at it, and she's like, yeah, so we call that agonal breathing, and it's the thing you do just before you die.
Oh, God.
and it's true. So sleep apnea is a condition where, for a variety of reasons, your soft palate collapses into your throat when you're sleeping and obstructs your airway. You cannot sleep with an obstructed airway. It will cause you to snore, and then sometimes it actually closes off completely, so you don't breathe. So this results in hypoxic brain, you don't have enough oxygen going to your brain. Your blood pressure goes all wonky. It can lead to heart disease. It can lead to a whole bunch of stuff that's not good. So he got a CPAP machine. Lots of people are familiar with these. Stands for continuous pressure airway something. I forget. And it's the snorkel. You put it on at night. Takes a while to get used to, but that started improving things. My husband has always been a napper. He would come home from work. He would say when he was working full time that after lunch, it almost killed him every day. He got so tired.
Right.
And that's one of the classic signs of sleep apnea.
Oh, wow.
Is you're tired in the middle of the day. You cannot get through a day without sleeping. You're exhausted all the time. So once he started the CPAP machine, he didn't need to nap in the day as much. A lot of things improved. His snoring obviously was better. It's a really difficult thing to sleep with. A big device to move around.
It would be like sleeping with a
headset
with a scuba dive.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So it does take some getting used to. And I mean, he got to where he would travel with that thing. He never left home without it. And then he had some dental work done that resulted in some TMJ issues, temporal mandibular joint. And he went and got assessed for that. And they said, oh, yeah, you've definitely got some degenerative joint disease going on here. So we're going to treat you for this, which involved dental devices that actually moved his jaw forward. And they told him when they did this, one of the side effects might be that you're not going to need your CPAP anymore. Well, it was about 4 months of using the device, and then now he's got an every night guard that he uses to keep his jaw in place, and he doesn't snore anymore.
Wow, that's amazing.
As long as he uses that device, he doesn't snore anymore, and he doesn't need a CPAP anymore.
That's amazing.
So it was not a cheap process to go through, but
totally worth it.
It was totally worth it, and it's prevented his jaw from further.
Right.
What they said was, by the time people have pain in their TMJ, the damage might be too bad to fix, because he was clicking every time he opened his mouth. So doesn't have that anymore. So aging well, look after yourself. Do the things that you can do. Definitely go to the dentist. Absolutely. The things that are
floss. I got to tell you, floss. That's like not flossing is like this gateway to terrible things, right?
And so I think that people don't necessarily know either that, well, most people know that your mouth is one of your dirtiest places, right? Flossing, moves all that stuff around, gets rid of plaque and whatnot. Not flossing allows bacteria to build up. That bacteria, when you swallow and breathe, you know where it goes directly? It goes down here to your heart.
Yep, you can get heart disease from
from bad dental care. We see that in animals all the time, all the time. So, yeah, absolutely. Floss, look after those things.
Yep.
So then he goes on to diet. We talked about that a fair bit.
Yep.
And cognitive challenge. And the first thing he says here is don't retire. And
I'm with him.
I'm with him too. You have to do the things that keep your brain active. We've talked about that many times out here. And so looking at even just, what did I just say I was going to figure out how to do?
Something.
Yeah, something.
We're gonna figure out something.
We're gonna figure out how to Yeah, do the thing that we said we were going to figure out how to do. And then
Yeah, we forget. See what
we
happens?
forget editing.
Yes.
Probably has something to do with editing.
Oh, yeah, we're going to... I don't know.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Oh, this is our first beer, just saying. I got
It is.
distracted because I have something that
Oh,
we're
she's
gonna play
playing with a toy. And that has to do with cognitive challenge as well.
Sugar?
No, the game.
Fun.
It's fun.
But
But there's some cognitive stuff going on there too. There's risk because
There is risk.
the risk
So,
is...
have you guys seen these? Bean Boozled?
Oh my
So,
goodness.
for example, there are 2 white jelly beans. One tastes like coconut and one tastes like spoiled milk, and you don't know which one you're going to get.
Ah.
And then there's a little brown one, and one tastes like strawberry banana smoothie, and the other one tastes like dead fish.
Oh, wow.
And then the yellow one is buttered popcorn or rotten egg, and we'll go on from there. So let's play,
Oh my
Roxanne.
God. Okay.
You ready for one?
Yep.
We'll only do one each. Now she's got me. Ooh, uh-oh.
It's a white
either
one,
going to
so
be
it's a-
coconut or spoiled milk. What is it, Rox?
It's coconut.
Shit.
It's coconut.
Okay.
I like coconut.
Damn. Oh, I'm going to get the one that tastes like barf. I can feel it. Oh, strawberry or dead fish, I think.
Oh,
or
and fish is really
peach,
bad.
Or peach or barf.
Oh.
I think it might be peach or barf. We'll find out. I'm gonna get the bad one. I can feel it.
And it's funny how long it takes
no,
to
it's
figure it
peach.
out. Okay, give me another one then.
We'll go until we get the bad one.
This is a really fun party game, by the way.
It is a fun party game. You can buy them on Amazon. Oh my God! What
Come
the heck?
on. I think you have to
Here.
lift something up more. Well, that's it. Oh, okay.
Here, I'll
Oops.
take the other one.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, it's green. So what's green?
So that's either lime or lawn clippings. Actually, lawn clipping
Oh.
or yeah. Lawn clippings isn't that bad.
I think it's lawn clippings because it's not lime.
Yeah,
Lawn
that's not
clippings.
so bad.
No.
Here.
It's mostly sweet, which is kind
So
of
this one is either. Is that the same one I just had?
Nope, not quite.
Okay, it might be dead fish or strawberry banana.
Oh! I'm going to guess it's not strawberry banana.
Thank you. Not sure if it's barf or dead fish, but it's something.
Now you need a good one to get the taste out of your mouth.
Yeah, that's actually true. Oh, I'm not risking that anymore, man. I'll eat a potato chip first.
It's a pretty fun.
It is really fun.
It's a pretty fun game.
It is.
And even stuff like that, like taking a risk, right? Pushes you a little bit, makes you laugh. These are all things that are good for your brain, good for your heart,
Nope, that's very true.
and they're funny.
They're funny when I get the barf.
They are funny when you get it.
Yes.
Okay, I think that is about all that I had here.
Okay, but we want to hear what you think about what are the things that help keep your brain healthy. Because we all read a lot. I cook new things, so that keeps your brain awake, right? Like there's that working out, that playing with the bats and stuff is like. It feels like active Sudoku, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You're having to watch the patterns, to do all
Yeah.
the things and stuff. Like, there's so many things that you can do. But even honestly, we are so lucky because we get to walk in nature.
Yeah.
Walking in nature is another thing that's
Yeah.
really important
Yeah.
to do, right? To get, even if you're in a big city and you just have a plant in your apartment.
Yeah.
Like that little piece of stuff. And of course, dogs help you, right?
Nature, right?
Yep.
So the thing, we always had animals. We raised our kids with animals. None of our kids have allergies, and that is not a coincidence. That's a known thing.
Right.
Also, breastfeeding, but the being exposed to things. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to talk about. So, I've been watching a show called Hack Your Gut. I think it's called.
There we go.
And it is really interesting because they talk about poop, and it is all these doctors that are very specific researchers into gut health, and they're talking specifically about the microbiome. Okay, the microbiome was fascinating because what did they show? They did a study of thousands and thousands of people from all around the world, and when I say study, I mean these people had to submit samples. and then they studied what bacteria, what organisms were in their gut. People from developed countries had a much narrower range of organisms, and we're talking like millions and millions. People in developing countries had a huge, much wider variety of organisms in their gut. The variety of organisms is apparently very important in terms of what you can digest and how.
Right.
They follow several people on this show. One is a competitive eater from Japan.
Oh, wow.
Okay, he's a guy who enters contests for a living, eating hot dogs and stuff. He is rail thin, and what's happened to him, whether, I don't know what came first, maybe he's a
Right.
competitive eater because he
Right.
has this condition. He does not sense hunger, and he does not sense fullness.
Wow.
So he can eat and eat and eat, and he never gets full. And also, he'll forget to eat for days at a time because he
Right.
never feels hungry.
Right.
So something's different in his
Right,
microbiome.
that's
So they're
interesting, hey?
studying that
Right.
with him. They've got a woman on there who can hardly eat anything. For I think she may have had disordered eating as a younger person,
Right.
and some food relationship issues since
Right.
then. But she eats a very narrow diet because her stomach just won't tolerate anything.
That's hard.
And so when they look at her microbiome, she's got so few, like the variation in
Yeah.
her organisms is really small. It's very narrow
Wow.
amount. So that affects what you can digest.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're feeding your bio,
Yeah.
your microbiome.
Right.
Right. They've got a woman on there who has tried everything to lose weight, and she simply can't. And they say, yeah, it's because your biome is not matching the foods that you're eating.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So they talk about how you develop that biome when you're born. If you're born vaginally, you're being inoculated with all of the organisms that you pass through the birth
Right.
canal. They're very graphic on this show,
Right.
which is good.
Yeah.
You're born. The typical birth is forget what they call it, but you're born face up
Right.
or whatever. You're facing your mom's butthole,
Right.
and that gives you access to organisms from your mother's digestive tract,
Right.
And so you're getting all of these organisms right from birth. As soon as the baby goes to breast, you're getting organisms from her body, her skin organisms, right? The more you're exposed to in the world, you're getting these organisms in you that are all building your immune system and helping you digest things.
Right. Oh,
if
that's
you live
interesting.
in a bubble, if you are fed only sterile things, if you are delivered maybe even by C-section, you don't get the same organisms in you.
Right.
You're more likely to have allergies, food
Right.
sensitivities, because you don't have the organisms that you need in your gut. I just find that fascinating.
It's so fat, but also like let's talk about the miracle of this, right?
Yes.
Of what you're given, if what we would typically call a natural birth, right? Like the miracle of that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
right. Like it's like it really is like this sophisticated system, and
Yeah.
I think it goes back to it. It's like it's really interesting, and we can all learn from it. But also, like every once in a while, you have to just sit back and go, "Holy man!"
The
Like,
system is so
yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
The system, it's a pretty well-designed system when it works.
that's really interesting.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
very interesting. So we're coming up on an hour now. Just
Okay.
saying.
Well, I keep thinking about more things and then
Yeah.
forgetting
There's
them.
always
So
things, man.
yeah, there's always things.
Yeah.
But that is,
But so let's talk about what we're grateful for.
oh wow.
So many things.
So many things. So many things. So my husband's away this weekend right now.
Are you grateful for that?
You know what I'm grateful for? I'm grateful that so during the pandemic, he retired sort of near the end of it. He took some time off. The pandemic was very difficult for a lot of professions, including veterinarians.
Oh yeah.
Because of the number of people who were getting pets
Yeah.
and the lack of veterinarians to do the work.
Yep.
It's a thing throughout North America. Anyway, so he got quite burned out during that process. Also, he was not able to get to conferences because everything was shut down,
Right.
obviously. So he took some time off and then changed his work schedule so that he's basically mostly retired now. But he was informed by his college that he was short on continuing
Right.
education credits. So I'm grateful that they gave him grace
Right.
for that so that he could make that up. So he does that every week. He's online doing courses because obviously now, like everything else, things are available online.
Yep.
But he's in Calgary right now at a really good conference.
Oh, that's
and he's
awesome.
meeting friends, classmates. He sent me pictures of people, somebody that I actually went to school with. And he's meeting good friends and he's golfing. And I'm so grateful that he gets to have this
That's
time.
awesome.
And I'm
That's
also
really
grateful
great.
that I get the bed to myself.
That's awesome. Nope, that's very awesome.
What are you grateful for, Ruth?
Well, I'm grateful we have some pretty great clients and interesting work, but I'm also grateful for the balance that Paul and I have been looking at because I'm not retiring. I think Paul would happily retire and golf all day, but he's not doing that yet either. But I'm grateful that we have these great, interesting projects that will keep us moving forward, but also that we take Fridays off in the summer. And I expect, at least for me, I'm going to just take Fridays off because, A, we have the podcast now, and that's important. Chalupa's leaving me now. But there
Hopefully
is...
not taking the mic
there,
with him.
Yeah, but there is sort of that to acknowledge this stage of life where you can start to expand the time you get to do the things you want to do. And for honestly, for 90% of the time, I love my job. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to work today, but that's just humans, right?
Yeah.
But it is nice to have some extra time to do things like this and
Yeah.
to learn more about the podcast
Yeah.
and maybe to promote it a bit so that it's a very loud place now, but to promote it a bit so that we grow the community.
Yeah. Yep, because we are aging well.
We're aging well.
And we're happy to do that with you guys.
Yeah, we're happy you're here. So what do we want more of, Roxanne?
We want more happy hours, Ruth. What do we want less of?
We want less bullshit.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thanks for being here, you guys.
have a good weekend, everybody.